So let us begin with the discussion to the structure-based drug discovery. We are actually not going to focus on to the all aspects of the structure-based drug discovery, and so I'm not going to focus on to the theoretical part of that. I have picked up a few examples from the literature, which I will be explaining you how the structure-based drug discovery, or specifically the structure activity relationship, need to be monitored, which is a very important aspect of getting a successful clinical candidate or a drug molecule. Basically, for every medicinal chemist or for everybody who is involved into the drug discovery, the main purpose, the dream is to see that the candidate or the now I think I am audible. It went on to the mid. So the aim of every scientist who is involved into the drug discovery process is develop a molecule and that will go into the humans. So with respect to that one, the structure activity relationship is very important and in a structure based drug discovery. So we will today focus on to the few molecules, how the smaller structural changes have made a lot of impact onto the activity of the molecules. So I am on to the next slide, which reads as overview of the drug discovery. So actually, let me not go into but to set the stage correctly, let us look into the overall structure, drug discovery process. The concept and therapeutic area has been defined as which area we need to work or which disease we want to target on. Then actually in a structured based drug discovery or targeted molecule based drug discovery, the target identification is done and the validation of target is a very important aspect. The validation of the target briefly means that whether hitting this target, either down regulating or up regulating, will have the significant effect onto the disease onset or not. This is what the target identification and validation includes. Mostly the biologists are involved into this step and the process. Then the assays are developed. That is a very important part of the drug discovery process. The correct assay needs to be developed, which will analyze, which will evaluate our designed and synthesized drug molecules. So this is another step. The next step is hit identification, where okay, heat identification is another process, and heat to lead. These are basically the chemistry based processes where chemical modifications are done, structural modifications are done, and today we are going to focus on to mostly the lead optimization. In heat identification, the compounds, their activities are very broad, or they are not so much active compounds, but in lead optimization they are before the preclinical candidates, so a lot of studies are done. So and then the preclinical studies are done, tox studies are done, and then IND nomination of the clinical candidate is filed to US FDA. So this is the overall process, and I'm proud to say that I am the one who has gone through the from concept to IND nomination. If you have any questions, you can raise your questions immediately during the presentation. I have no problem to that one, and I can spend. So let's go on to directly to our first example. Here I am going to share with the story of the CDK4 inhibitors. Okay. And here you will see that how the smaller changes into the structural modification and how important it is to understand the structure and structural changes into the molecule. So this story is coming from Merck Research Laboratory, Japan. This was research was done around, I mean, before 2000. This was published in Journal of Medicinal Chemistry 2001. And also then supporting information you will find in Chemistry and Biology in published in 2004. I have given the references here. So if you look into the compound 1, which is in a urea compound, and it has a specifically on phenyl ring 1 methyl and 1 chlorine, and the activity or IC50 against the CDK4 compound is 44 micromolars. So you can see that when the structural modification, when the chlorine is removed and the methyl is removed, the structure, the activity of this compound has gone down significantly, at least 3 times, and it has come to 120 micromoles. So this indicates that there is a lot of importance of this methyl and chlorine compound. But we will see in the next slide how important and why that modifications have changed. In other modifications, when they synthesized several molecules, okay, they have found that the urea moiety is important. If we remove from the urea moiety the one of the NH and replaced it with the CH2 as shown into the compound number 13 onto this slide, then you can see that the molecule is totally inactive. See here the small modifications, what will this indicate is that the NH, okay, the N, either this heteroatom N or hydrogen is involved into the direct bonding with the ligand. This is a very important aspect into the structure-based drug discovery, because actually you are not every time going to see that how your molecule is binding to the enzyme. So you have to conclude from the structural modifications only that which element of or which part, which moiety, which functional group is important in case of the. So what this slide is teaching to us is that the nitrogen in case of urea is certainly involved into the, because you don't every time get a crystal structure to see that whether which element is required, which you can remove, which functional group you can modify. So here it is clearly indicating that NH is important. So you should keep always that NH in your molecule, should not alter it. So the next slide will show us the binding mode of this one. So modeling analysis of this compound also verified that the NH of the urea moiety or urea functional group is involved with the leucine 83 oxygen into hydrogen bonding. Okay, so this and particularly now in this case what happens is this requires the cis conformation. If the compound is into the trans conformation, this interaction will not happen. The phenyl ring, which is here, which will bounce against the ligand, against the protein, and the binding will not happen. So you can see that clearly in this picture, the bidentate manner this ligand is. So now the most important and the interesting part is coming up into the next slide. And this aspect I can tell you, most of the medicinal chemists here, you may have not heard or you may not have seen it earlier. Now you see that we have 3 compounds in this slide. Okay, so the first compound is having the IC50 7.6 micromolar, and basic difference and the second compound is having a 340 micromolar IC50. So this compound is several times less potent than the compound number 14. 1B and 1C also is not potent. If you people see that, what is the difference between three compounds? There is only one difference in these three compounds is that the pyridine is at the substitution is at the second position. Here the substitution is at the third position, and then the fourth position substitution onto compound 1C. But we are seeing that only the compound having the substitution at the second position is highly active. Why is it happening? See, very interesting analysis. I am going to give you the insight how it's totally different insight which you can have onto this one. Here the internal hydrogen bonding is playing an important role. If you see the compound number 14, okay, it is, we know that the compound is binding to the protein bidentally or in a bidentate manner. And now what is happening, the second position nitrogen, actually if you draw this in a different fashion, this hydrogen bonding is forming a 6-membered ring. And as a chemist, you must be knowing, you must be aware that when the compound is involved or the hydrogen is involved into internal hydrogen bonding and it forms the 6-membered ring, that hydrogen bonding is very strong hydrogen bonding. If you see, we want to see that how the 6-membered ring is formed, you will it is better to draw the structure in this fashion, and you can see that there is virtually it is a bicyclic compound with the hydrogen bonding forming. Are you able to see that? If anybody, any one of you can reply to me, it will be better. Are you able to see the 6-membered hydrogen bonding in this compound? Any one of you? If any one of you can answer, okay. Okay, so the compound 14, we have seen that it is forming a hydrogen bonding. Now let us go ahead with the compound 1A. Okay, see this compound 1A we have seen into the last slide, and the compound 1A was having a 120 micromolar activity. So almost we have brought down to several folds the activity just by placing the nitrogen over here. So this is what the structure activity relationship or the smaller changes. A simple introduction of a nitrogen onto the compound 1A and modifying it to the pyridine derivative compound 14 has resulted into several fold gain of activity. So I will move on to the next slide. Here I am trying to give another example of the same feature, that here what has happened now, the compound 14, okay, this compound has been developed by Merck, and this compound was further modified and thousands of molecules were synthesized. But what is the learning from this side? Even though the thousands of molecules were synthesized, you people will be able to see that the hydrogen bonding between the nitrogen, one of the nitrogen of urea and the pyridine nitrogen was not sacrificed at any instance or in any of the compound. and the final compound looks like 15A, which is having 1.6 nanomolar. Now this is 1,000 times more potent than our earlier compound. If you have seen into the earlier slide, that compound with the phenyl ring, which was having a 120 micromolar. So this is the importance of the maintaining the geometry into structure-based drug design. Okay, so I have mentioned here that the internal hydrogen bond rocks, it has not been disturbed by the scientists. It has been retained by the scientists in all the cases. And there are, if you see that there were a several modification, it is not only the gain of activity was not only the function of the hydrogen bonding, but hydrogen bonding and urea moiety was the part of the pharmacophore. So in your drug discovery process, you need to identify the pharmacophore and retain it. This is what the learning is. In next slide, we will see that the how in case of sunitinib, which is the first anti-cancer drug developed through the targeted molecular therapy. Okay, how the initial inactive derivatives are further modified to get the market drug. This is a very interesting story, and you would be able to see here the another molecule. Here there is a no urea moiety, but again this is we have a lot of learning from the two examples. Earlier this simaxinib was the compound which was put into the clinical test, but it was withdrawn because of its some disadvantages, okay, or the side effects seen into the clinical trials. So now the further the scientists modified this compound, and sunitinib was marketed in 2000 or got an approval in 2006. Okay, it is a first cancer drug simultaneously approved for two different indications. Okay, we'll like to see that what kind of hydrogen bonding, how the geometry was maintained by keeping the internal hydrogen bonding of the molecule. I'm talking about the internal, I'm not talking about the hydrogen bonding between the substrate and the ligand. I'm talking about the hydrogen bonding internally, intra-hydrogen bonding of the molecule. So in the next slide, you will see that the inactive molecule is shown on your left-hand side, okay, which is into the E configuration, and the molecule that is suspected to be active was into the G configuration, okay, and the validation of the molecule came, okay, when scientists try to, now what will happen, you need to study both these compounds. One is a compound into the middle that has been titled as a suspected active compound. But what happens, how will you, as a medicinal chemist, very interesting part here is that how will you know that this is the correct configuration that is active in that is the active configuration, or that is the active geometry that is giving you the results, or that is having the activity, not the geometry that is shown onto the left hand side as an inactive molecule. So to prove this one, you need to, what are the ways? One thing is that you can do the docking studies, and then you can come to some conclusion. But docking studies are still speculative studies. Okay, only confirmation comes when the enzymes speak. Means you synthesize the compound, you put it into the enzymes, and what is the activity the enzymes are showing, or it is showing against the enzyme. So that the validation comes only from the structural modification and actual synthesis of molecule, not from the in silico docking or something, but in silico docking gives you idea. So if you remove the methyl group from the pyrazole ring, then you could see that it will have the NH onto the one of the pyrazole, and this will lead to the hydrogen bonding. If actually the compound is active into the configuration that is shown here with IC 57.4 micromolar, then this compound will certainly be more active. And if this hydrogen bonding is not going to help, or the hydrogen bonding is helping the or holding the compound in the geometry that's not as an active conformation, then this compound will lose the activity. This is what we need to see carefully when we synthesize the compound. Usually we synthesize the compounds and the data comes and we don't correlate that data with a lot of things. I mean, you need to understand if your compound has some kind of internal hydrogen bonding or not. Okay. So in this case, it is evident from this small modification, removal of methyl group from the pyrazole and the hydrogen bonding that is existing after that removal and the gaining of the, these all facts, when you correlate to each other, it will give you the idea that the compound is into the cis conformation. The active form is a cis conformation. So now, if you see that the further modifications into this projects were done, as you have seen the AR is here, the compound that is shown known, okay, which is having the AR substitution. When the other substitutions were tried, you could see that the phenyl substitution has resulted into 5 micromolar activity, okay, and the thiazole substitution has resulted into totally inactive molecule. Okay. So similarly, all modifications were resulted into inactive except the pyrrole. Okay. Now you can study that why the pyrrole was the active and it showed the 0.4 micromolar activity, because this hydrogen atom present into the pyrrole ring is going to hold the molecule into the correct configuration. So this is how you need to monitor your modification. See, each modification is going to teach you something. You are ready to learn. If you are ready to coordinate all the information, like in the last example, we have seen that it is or in this case, we have seen that it is a internal hydrogen bonding. Again, it is a configuration of the molecule. Then it relates to the activity of the molecule. If we see into this pyrrole fragment, okay, and the further modifications here were tried. The scaffold was further explored with the pyrrole fragment, because pyrrole gave the very good activity, as we have seen into the last slide, that it was almost a 4 micromolar activity it had. The variations included the tetrahydroindole and a propionic acid functionality at different positions. And S5402, you could see that this emerged as the lead candidate for the development. Okay, so I mentioned to you in our earlier first slide that the lead candidate needs to be very potent, one thing, and you could see that here it is a 0.030 micromolar activity, having the highest activity among all the derivatives that were, and probably the compound was also analyzed or studied for other activities. The binding of this uh, compound has revealed that X group is presented into the next page. You could see that. What does this X-ray data reveal that? See, indolinone moiety is located into the adenine binding site of the protein, and the pyrrole and the indolinone. These are the two independent rings are nearly coplanar. Why are those are coplanar in spite of having the freedom to rotate with their the bond that is connecting both the rings, having a freedom of a rotation, even then it is a coplanar due to the intramolecular hydrogen bond between these two rings. And if these two rings are not making the intramolecular hydrogen bond, then you have seen in case of thiazole, in case of other heterocycles where there is a not the nitrogen is not available, we are losing the intramolecular hydrogen bonding, and the flat nature of the two rings is not existing. Okay, so the existence of the flat region that can be reached only when the molecule is a planar. So that is why that hydrogen bonding is very important. So when you are synthesizing your compound in any of the medicinal chemistry project, how your modifications are affecting the geometry of the molecule is very important into structure-based drug discovery. This is the message I wanted to convey out of these slides. In the next slide, we will see that the same structure from the different angle. You could see that hydrogen bonding between the pyrrole and the ketone group of the other bicyclic ring is clearly seen, and that is giving us the activity. Now, very interesting example I will like to give you of the intramolecular hydrogen bonding in the structure-based drug discovery. You could see that this compound presented here is having 37 nanomolar activity. Okay, so if you see that this compound is this scaffold anilino-thalazine is having a nitrogen-nitrogen double bond, but is this molecule has any relation with the molecule that is shown on to the left hand side? Apparently, if you see this molecule, you don't see any kind of relation. But I would say that the molecule with the with pyridine and the amide bond, okay, two phenyl groups, one is a chlorophenyl, another one is a aniline and amide, and then another one is a benzyl pyridine. So or methyl pyridine. So these molecule, if I say, is very closely related to the existing molecule. Okay, that for that reason, in a structure-based drug discovery, a 3D view of the molecule is very important. To understand the 3D view, you could see that in actual existence, this molecule, if you draw like this, or if you view these molecules like this, okay, now you are seeing onto your right hand side of the slide is the same molecule that is drawn onto the left hand side of the molecule. You will be able to see that there is a strong hydrogen bonding, and the molecule that we draw it in another fashion can be seen. And what you are seeing that here the NN double bond, okay, in anilinothalazine, okay, in anilinothalazine compound is replaced by simply hydrogen bonding, and still the molecule is active. So you understand that how strong the internal hydrogen bonding is in structure-based drug discovery, or while you are synthesizing and ultimately designing the molecules. So this is we have seen this in another example. If you see the superimposition of this one, then you can see that anthra-anilamide scaffold, okay, has successfully resembled the initial anilino-thalazine compound. The intramolecular hydrogen bond between the aniline NH and the benza-anilide C double bond O favors the conformation which mimic well-referenced bicyclic structure. So actually very interesting. I mean, it is very difficult to find the examples of this kind. That, I mean, there are a few examples in this drug discovery research, that the bicyclic compound here is replaced by the monocyclic or linear compounds, and still it is resembling or mimicking the same bicyclic structure in spite of not having the double bond in existence. But that double bond is mimicked by the just an intramolecular hydrogen bond. Here, where is the here the intramolecular hydrogen bond is between aniline and benza-anilide C ketone group, C double bond group. So very important example. If you have in your medicinal chemistry project, please look at your molecules. If you have the bicyclic compounds and that can be broken into the, it will give you a lot of actually it will give you a lot of advantages for further structural modification, because sometimes you are restricted to stick to some scaffold and you are not able to achieve your DMPK properties or your solubility or your or not only the solubility but other physicochemical properties. You want to address the toxicity. Then when you are replacing one bicyclic ring with a completely different scaffold, actually you are gaining the advantage of discovering the new pharmacophore. Here what is happening is, earlier pharmacophore was anilinothalazine only, but now you have achieved the one more anthra-anilamide pharmacophore we have got it. And this pharmacophore, one thing is that this pharmacophore, as seen into the earlier slide, is certainly more active than your alazine pharmacophore, and in other case this pharmacophore may have the several advantages that your earlier scaffold was not having, and you will get a more of freedom. So in another example where you can replace the cyclic structure with a acyclic structure, here very interesting example. If you look at the estazolam, which is an active compound and having the tricyclic structure. Now if you look into the compound number 2b, it is a still active compound, still triazole derivative, okay, shown below onto your right hand side is mimicking the structure of benzodiazepine receptor antagonist, okay, and the actually you are breaking a 7-member diazepine ring, okay, and it is it is now simply phenyl triazole ring you are replacing with. And what happens here? Here probably you have this rigid structure here of istazolone which has been replaced by, and you could have the freedom to modify this compound further. So this is a very interesting example of the breaking the 7-membered ring. We have earlier seen that the 6-membered ring has been broken down and it has been mimicked by other hydrogen internal hydrogen bonding forming moieties. Here, similarly, we are breaking down the 7-membered ring. This compound is actually the benzodiazepine receptor antagonist. This is how here it is shown that into the superimposition that exactly the molecules are geometrically matching each other. Okay, and that the mimicking is almost near to perfect. So in another case now here, the salicylate anilide scaffold, okay, shown here was designed to match the reference quinazoline. You could see that the quinazoline is having the 0.31 nanomolar. Assuming the now, if you look into salicylate anilide onto your right hand side, basically, and you could see that the compound has no other changes, but the bond that is indicated by the yellow arrow, okay, and has been broken, but it has been replaced again immediately by the hydrogen bonding. So this is giving you another active molecule which is active at a 64 nanomolar. So this is a very interesting example. If you people have the kind of a scaffold where you can replace the bond with a simple hydrogen bonding, you should look at your projects. And here again the superimposition is shown. So if you look into the 2D structure of compounds, if they are not drawn into this fashion, probably you will not be able to understand the idea that this has been the case that we could replace the molecules with the internal hydrogen bonding. We could break the bonds of the core pharmacophore and we can get another pharmacophore. So here I have tried to summarize a few of the ring forming moieties. Okay, the presence of ring by designing the let us call them I'm calling them the pseudo cycles. These are not actually the cyclic compounds, but they can make the pseudo cycle whose closure will be intramolecular hydrogen bond in the structure concerned. So you could see that here we have 5 examples which are actually not the rings, but they will form the rings with the help of the intramolecular hydrogen bonding. So here now the next important aspect that we are going to look into is how the small modifications will alter the activities. You could see that what has been done here is that only simply the one nitrogen from the left hand side compound. I will request all of you to look into the slide and study both the molecules. What is the difference between both the molecules? You could see that the one of the nitrogen atom from here, okay, has been moved to another position, and that has caused almost the loss of complete activity. Actually, this example I have picked it up from the GK3 beta inhibitor published into 2000 into Journal of Chemistry. So let us have the explanation why such a loss of activity has happened in this case. Actually, our assumptions are totally different, but molecules, they behave totally differently into the biological system. You could see that here in the next slide, a possible explanation is given. Okay, the molecule that are that is active is binding to the receptor with the two nitrogens, one nitrogen and one is a H, which is connecting or the between the both rings, trichlorobenzene ring and the another one. So if you see that when the nitrogen that has been replaced onto the another side, okay, and it is again trying to bind to the receptor through the two nitrogens. But what is happening because of this one, the cyclopropyl substitution and the propyl substitution that is there onto the nitrogen, it is coming towards the protein's back structure, and then it is causing a bump. So these interactions between the ligand and the protein is getting lost. So this is totally losing the activity. So we may not expect this one, but this happened that the molecules with the smaller modification can actually lose the activity totally because of the configurational changes that are happening into the molecule because of a simple change. Example will demonstrate to you. So when you see that you have made a small modification into your medicinal chemistry and you are having the surprising results that the molecule is totally inactive, so I will request you to look into the if it is causing the structural configurational changes into your scaffold or not, you need to investigate. This slide is teaching us that part of the medicinal chemistry project or chemical modifications on the drug design. If no question there, I will Vishnu Kant, you can ask the question if you have something. Please go ahead. Someone has raised the hand, so I would like to ask the question, or if not, then let me go ahead. See here in another example, we are seeing that the aminoquinozoline IC50 is, this is lead optimization was the zefitinib and EGFR inhibitor, very popular one. This is the reference is Future Journal of Pharmaceutical Science published in 2016. Very interesting example I have collected for you people, and there is a 100-fold loss of activity. Okay, you could see that aminoquinozoline has a 40 nanomolar, and the another modifications that is done here was a simply replacement of the hydrogen with the methyl. So N-methyl analog was a 4000 nanomolar. So this is almost 100 times loss of activity. But if you could see that the O analog, see from the first two compounds, it is very clear for us that probably the hydrogen is important because we have learned now the hydrogen bonding, intramolecular hydrogen bonding, and or the hydrogen may be involved with the protein in hydrogen bonding. That is why the replacement of. But if you could see that, I have intentionally selected this example because before you conclude in medicinal chemistry, actually, I mean, you are trying to see what you are not actually able to see that one. So you need to properly conclude these things. So these four molecules will teach us a lot of sides into our structural modification and drug design or a drug discovery. You could see that the next molecule synthesized was the O analog. And if you see that the O analog is again active and it is more active than the NH aminoquinazoline analog. So ether analog or O-linked analog is active. What does it indicate? It indicates that the hydrogen atom may not be important, or it is certainly not important for the activity. But then why the N-methyl analog is so active, 100 times inactive? That is the question. Again, there is one more compound given onto the slide, and this has been taken from the Future Journal of Pharmaceutical Science in 2000, published in 2016, describing the EGFR inhibitors. So ES analog has been synthesized. So if you look at this one, the ES analog is a 10 nanomolar active. So that certainly now validates that the hydrogen atom present into the aminoquinozoline is not important for the structure activity. Now I will give you the explanation why the introduction of a small group of ethyl has. I have mentioned to you people, I have selected a very important example which gives you the insight how the smaller modifications will change the geometry. So we have seen in earlier examples, smaller modifications have favored the geometry, favored the configuration, increased the activity. Here, the small modification is actually causing the loss of activity. Why it is so, we will see into the next slide. Here I am trying to show you on this slide the aminoquinazoline moiety. Okay, so now you have seen that aminoquinazoline moiety is actually active moiety. If you see that the activity was 40 nanomolar. Okay, now let us superimpose the O analog onto that. So if you see that the O analog is again superimposing near to perfection with the aminoquinazoline moiety. So look into this one, how these activities are, how these structural changes are causing the configurational or geometrical changes into your molecule. Okay, the next analog we will superimpose is the S analog. Again, you know, that is close to the perfections, or the key elements are matching if you see the superimposed molecule. But we have seen that the N-methyl analog was a inactive analog. Now let us look into this one very interestingly. Why exactly the N-methyl analog is an inactive analog? Now you will see, when you see the 3D structure of this compound, you will certainly come to know that why it is inactive. See what is happening with this one. The position with introduction of a methyl onto nitrogen, the position of the phenyl ring is totally flipping. Okay, So that is why this molecule, the geometry of this molecule is totally different than the aminoquinozoline O analog and S analog. So you have to be very careful in modifying, or you have to be very alert in understanding the geometrical changes, configurational changes in your molecules when you are doing the chemical modification, synthesizing the compounds, analyzing the activities that are received from the biology department, or got interesting example actually of a small modification that was inspired. There are several examples in the medicinal chemistry research that are based on to whether you will be able to where you will be able to replace the hydrogen with the smaller substitution, mostly the methyl, okay, on heteroatoms, and then lose the activity, because in those cases that hydrogen atom is involved into the hydrogen bonding. But in this case, what has happened, this hydrogen is not involved in hydrogen bonding. In spite of that, we lost the activity. This is a very unique example. You should note it, you should study it, and you should apply it into your medicinal chemistry projects. This is what the learning here is. In the next example, the inactive form uh, of the N-methyl analog as independently shown here, you could see that the stereochemical changes in the molecule, whether this is favorable or unfavorable, that we need to certainly see. That is what I explained to you. Now moving on to the another example. We know that ATP is the natural ligand of the protein kinase, right? Okay. A number of crystallographic studies of ATP and adenine-like analogs reveal the binding mode of the molecule of the family. This is very well established. I mean, there is nothing new onto this one, but if you are not studied, I would request you to study the binding mode of ATP into the protein kinase. Okay. And you could see that the extract structure complex between the ATP and the protein kinase. This is actually the example from CDK2 and which has been solved and confirmed. It's now classical binding mode of all the kinases. Okay. And you could see that here the two molecules are given. One is ATP molecule and another one is olomosine molecule. Okay. A relatively selective inhibitor of the CDK2 kinase. Okay, it has also the adenine scaffold that is also put into the ATP. So it is almost the ATP mimic. So it was anticipated that olomosine would have compatible binding mode corresponding to the alignment. See, if you look into these structures and their 2D structure, I have earlier also mentioned to you that the two in drug discovery, one will be fooled, one will be taken into the wrong direction if he only looks into the 2D structure of the molecule. Now here, obviously, you will see that how the binding mode will be. Probably it will bind in the similar way as it is binding to the ATP binds. But now if you look into the the extra structure of the complex of olomosine with CDK2 reveals an entirely different binding. This example where now we are entering, we have seen earlier the smaller modifications, how do they affect or how do they change the geometries, and sometimes the change the geometry favors, sometimes the change the geometry doesn't favor, and then we lose the activities. So here you could see that the ATP binding, ATP also superimposed, and olomycin is also shown here. But you could see that the adenine moiety is totally inverted. So in case of the ATP, the binding mode is totally different, and in case of the olomycin, the binding mode. So the teaching here is that do not go blindly onto the similarity of the molecule first. Second is that do not go blindly onto the differently looking molecules, because in earlier case we have seen that in the ring we have seen that the nitrogen double bond was replaced by the amide, and that was replaced by the not the amide but the hydrogen bonding. And if you look apparently towards both the molecules, they were not structurally similar, but when the hydrogen bonding happens, they were forming the pseudo ring. We called it pseudo ring, and that pseudo ring was forming a six-membered ring, which was perfectly mimicking the another bicyclic ring. So actually, the monocyclic compound or a linear compound or the compound having a freedom of rotation was mimicking the bicyclic rigid molecule. Okay, so apparently different molecule working similar. Here, apparently similar molecule working differently. So I have brought to you very unique examples. Probably you will not be able to find easily onto your textbook. So I request you to kindly pay attention to this knowledge that I am sharing with you, and it will be valuable knowledge for your medicinal chemistry project or drug discovery projects. So here the binding mode of both the compounds is given. By analogy, you could see that the ATP olomycin and ATP competitive inhibitor of the protein kinase CDK was expected to have the same binding mode, as I said it. Okay, but however, the X-ray studies demonstrated an entirely different binding mode for it. Analyzed in detail in these slides. Okay, such a drastic effect should not be overlooked when interpreting the biological activities of the adenine-based inhib. This is analyzed in the detail in the other analysis, but which is I am not giving to here. So the binding mode of ATP was, another the nitrogen of the adenine, and the another amino substitution is bindier with the backbone with the protein, but here it is a totally different. So this is again the modeling analysis of that one. And another compound that we will study here, the another example I am bringing to you is dihydrofolate and methotrexate. Okay, so if you look into the dihydrofolate and methotrexate, you could see that actually the complete structures are not given here, but the complete structures are drawn onto with the yellow ground, and you could see that there are slight modifications are shown into the green, that the keto group is here as an amine group, and here the NH and NACT. And bind to the catalytic site of the dihydrofolate reductase, both have the rather the long side chain R, which is not shown into the 3D structures, but which are shown into and they are very similar. That is the same in both the molecules, but their binding modes are totally by simple observation of their chemical structure, it seems logical to imagine that the two molecules adopt the similar binding modes with the two structures align in the following way. As I shown you the complete structures onto the earlier side, dihydrofolate and methotrexate, probably you will be imagined, but actual story is totally different. The extra structure of the complexes between the dihydrofolate and the methotrexate molecule indicate an entirely different binding mode. This is, I am bringing to you the second example when the compounds look similar but they bind differently. For two molecules, each molecule binding to the catalytic site upside down, totally differently. While the methotrexate was found to be protonated. So you could look into that the 3D distribution of electrostatic properties of these two molecules. Then it will be. So what it means is that this example is very well described into the and couple. This is couple of references are given for this one, and very interesting example actually. If you look into that one, the very similarly looking compounds binding it differently. So you should be able to understand that when designing the molecules, you probably will design the molecules of the similar molecule, but it may bind a little differently. So I'm thankful to all of you for your patient listening, and the session is open for the